Welcome to the show. Got a very special guest with us today, Craig from Wicked Threads. He actually does my boat work for me. Good local guy down the street here. Craig, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
You feeling a little nervous yet?
A little bit.
A little bit? Good, good. Do you know this guy? He's from Chambersburg.
GR Archery.
I picked up his card in Outback because I was like, I don't know if Craig's going to do this. I was like, I might have to try to find somebody else to talk about archery. But then you're now you're here. So
I wasn't avoiding it. We had so much going on. Actually, right after you and I talked, our well busted. I had to have that fixed.
What happened with the well?
One of our lines busted, so they had to dig up part of it and fix it, and had to deal with that. Had to deal with some stuff with my son, and just life got hectic for a little bit.
That'll happen. So like Wicked Threads. Why the name Wicked Threads?
Honestly, when I decided I was making strings for a shop at the time, but it wasn't a business. We didn't name it or anything.
Yeah.
And we were just sitting, throwing stuff out. And I mean, I was working at Extreme Archery at the time. So we said, what about Extreme Strings? I was like, yeah, that sounds cool, but I want to separate it from the shop. I don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, your logo's awesome.
And, I just had a web designer tell me the exact same thing yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm working with some different web designers to get my website fixed, which is one of the cool things I was telling you about. And he said, your logo is freaking awesome. I said, thanks. My son drew it.
Really?
Yeah.
He's got talent.
I told my son, I said, hey, I need a logo for my business. He walked out of his bedroom and handed me that. Yeah.
I like it. I like the new cards.
So Wicked Threads is just something we landed on. It worked. I did a search, make sure there's no one out there with that name already. There is a Wicked Threads, but it's a clothing company.
Okay.
So that's why I went with Wicked Threads Custom Strings.
Wicked Thread Custom Strings.
Yep.
So like, how did you get into like wanting to be an archery guy? Like you just like.
So I actually found archery because I was working at UPS in 2004.
Okay.
Never shot archery. I mean, when I was a Boy Scouts, I shot some archery, but never really got into it or anything. And when I was working at UPS 2004, they said, hey, I found out peak is during rifle season. You're not allowed to take off. I was like, all right. So I went out and bought myself a bow. I said, well, I'll hunt archery. This was 2004, and I have not had a rifle in the woods since 2004.
It's warmer.
Mm-hmm.
The deer are calmer.
Yep.
You don't walk around and see a bunch of pumpkins sitting there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just like
I just fell in love with the bow. Even if I do go during rifle season, I take my bow with me. I don't take my gun.
It's more of a hunt.
Yep.
It's so much more of a hunt than all the other jazz.
Right.
And I just can't. I enjoy it so much more.
Yep.
It's mostly just like the time of year, and liking to be out in the woods that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that I hate rifle or I hate the cold, but at the same time, it's just once you get a deer with a bow, it's so much more gratifying.
Right.
The gratification is so much more there because there's steps to it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You actually there's so much things you have to control.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And there's such a higher level of intensity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's a lot more satisfying when you take a deer with your bow than a rifle.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yep.
So for all you rifle punks,
we still love you, but
don't buy a crossbow. How do you feel about crossbows?
So I've got to be careful here because I do make crossbow strings.
That's why I shut up real quick. I was like, I better talk about crossbows quickly.
So here's the thing. I feel like crossbows have their place.
Yeah.
I think since the law has been changed to allow anybody to shoot them except for, and it used to be just youth and people with disabilities.
Right.
I think since the law has been changed, it's been abused.
100%.
When I was working the shop, I'd have guys come in the day before archery season and buy crossbows to go hunting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You still have to practice with it. You still have to sight it in. And the one guy looked at me and said, well, I bet now it's legal. You'll be buying one. I was like, no, my bow works just fine.
Yeah, I don't want one.
Exactly.
I don't want one.
And again, I have nothing against crossbows, and I have friends that hunt with crossbows, and more power to them. My problem was with the guys abusing it. Think that they can go buy one the day before archery season and then hunt with it.
Right.
The guys that think just because Raven put out your next rifle, they can shoot a deer at 100 yards with it. That irritates me so much too with their advertising of that.
My dad just bought one of the new Ravens, like $2,200 bow when he got it, and don't get me wrong, the thing's awesome.
Right.
You know, he brought it here and I sighted it in for him, but to your point, you can't just go out and buy it because there's still steps.
Yes.
Like you've got to know how to crank it. You got to crank it the right way. You know, you got to know where the safety is and have it memorized. There's a step. Still,
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's not near as in depth to the pullback process.
Right.
But you still got to know where everything is.
Right.
And it has to be seamless.
Yes.
And there's so many times, even just back here with my dad, just getting the bow and it being new for him, he is like, and goes to shoot, and I'm like, safety still on. And when we went hunting, he finally took the bow out hunting. You know, my dad's 65, so he needs a crossbow. I'll give him a hall pass. But, you know, I was like, make sure you take your safety off. You know what I mean? Because I'm like,
and that's the thing too. Like I've shot crossbows, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy shooting them too.
Right.
But let's be honest, if you're out, even say target practicing, I can shoot 10 arrows in the time you cocked your bow twice.
Exactly. And that's the thing. He's got to take this thing off and about, and it's like click. And then he can finally like put it all back together.
Right.
And he loses the crank.
Yep.
And, you know.
Yep. Like I said, they have their place. And even with the new law, I'm okay with other people shooting them to hunt as well. What I don't like is the guys thinking they can take 100-yard shots and the guys that think I can buy it the day before hunting season and go hunting with it. That's what's upsetting me. And we're seeing a lot of deer wounded because of it.
So let me ask you this, because you are someone who shoots competitive and that type of thing, and, you know, obviously you're really into this. What do you feel is like the ethical range for a shot? And I'm not going to judge you for your answer, but like what in your own personal situation, what's the max?
It really comes down to a lot of fact. There is no set answer to that. It depends on the person. It depends on the circumstance. Me personally, where I hunt, I won't take more than a 40-yard shot.
40-yard shot.
I won't do it.
Yeah.
Competitively, I shoot out to 80 yards just fine and hit a bullseye. I'm fine with that. But hunting, where I hunt, I will not take more than a 40-yard shot. There's guys who hunt areas where they can take a 60, 65-yard shot and be confident with it. That's fine. That's just not for me.
Yeah.
The areas I hunt, that doesn't work.
See, I'm like a shaky hand guy. So like, you know, me trying to hold the bow stable, it's tough.
Right.
You know, so like I've learned now to just like literally, instead of trying to hold on, the second I hit, I release. Like it's like almost drift, boom, poop. Like as soon as I touch, I pull. Like
so you're one of those target panic guys.
I just can't. I can't hold still.
Yeah.
Even with the rifle, I can't. I'm just literally, if I hold my hand out there, look at it shake.
Yep.
And I'm not nervous.
Oh, I'm the same way.
Yeah. So you got some tips on that? How do I stop?
Honestly, you're not going to. What you need to do is you need to focus on your target. So, like with indoor, I'm the same way. I shake a lot.
Yeah.
And I
finally someone like me.
Yep. And I would tell the guys like I can't stop floating, and they told me stop focusing on your dot, focus on your target. Just stare through your dot.
Really?
And focus on your target. And I still, when I'm holding, I'm still floating around. But when that shot goes off, it's where I want it.
That's 100%.
Yep.
And you know what? I think I brought my bow to you, being like, dude, I think it's off, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, it's not bad. You know, you fixed it like that.
Right.
And I think a lot of it had to do with, and by the way, when I brought it back home, if I had a broadhead on, I'd still have arrow spin. So, like, you got to take a look at my shot because I know it's not the bow. I'm 90% sure it's me because I think I'm doing something because I can get straights, but I'll still get the spiral.
Right.
And you won't notice it unless I'm shooting like 50, 60 when I'm practicing. And if I put a broadhead on, obviously it's 10 times worse. And you get that, you can hear it go, you know, and you see it look like a spiral.
Did you ever mark your arrows to see if it's the same one?
Yes.
Okay.
I have done that because I have like different, you know, fletches. So I'll take the same arrow and try over and over again with that same fletched arrow.
Okay.
Just to make sure because yes, you know, I know what you're talking about, but I think it has something to do with my wrist and not being straight. And maybe it's my type of release because I don't know if I hold it to the side and it's putting just a little bit of that string
Side
follow
pressure,
through and it's just coming through a little cockeyed or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I still get, and you working on the bow made it better from everything you said with, hey, the way this rest works, and you remember my quad QAD, the way I had my arrow, you're like, don't go like that.
Right.
And I'm like, what? You're like, yeah, don't go like that. And I'm like,
Right.
you know, I've only been hunting now for 5 years, and I grew up hunting, but as a kid, I just didn't like it. And then all of a sudden, one day, like a light bulb went off, and I'm like,
Right.
I want to go hunting. You know what I mean? And then, kind of like anything, when I start getting into something, I go just all in.
Right.
So you know,
Yep.
I don't practice every day, and that's why I want to get the range membership back because it's so easy just to show up there. And yeah, I got a target in the backyard, but you know, it's just not the same.
Yeah, come on back to Dillsburg. It's a good group of guys. $30 a year for the membership.
Yeah, I've had it the last 2 years.
Yep.
I do this every year. I get to about this time and I'm like, I want to go shoot guns, and I'm like, oh, it's not renewed.
You know, the funny thing is the reason I got my Dillsburg membership originally wasn't to shoot my bow. It was to go back there and shoot guns because even though I don't hunt with the rifle, I like shooting my guns. And you can go back to Dillsburg the day before rifle season and there's nobody there.
Nailed it.
Yep.
So I got to segue on a quick story on that because I'm right there with you. So part of me moving out here, I was like, my rifle range was out there in like Strinestown.
Okay.
And it's not that far, but too far enough.
Yep.
And father-in-law was telling me Dillsburg, blah, blah. I go out there, same thing as you, gun. And I drove by the archery range. I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's archery range. That's a really nice indoor archery range.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the one I went to before was like a shack with targets, and it was only 20 yards.
Right.
Really, what? I mean, you shoot 30 yards is the line there, right?
Well, there's two lines. There's 20 and then there's 30 yards.
Right, but 30, and if nobody else is in there, I'll even go all the way back to the wall.
Yep.
No, you know, I'm safe about it.
Yeah.
Don't panic.
If you go back into shelves, you can get about 35 out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I'll get a little bit more out of it, you know, if I'm back up against that wall. But and you can turn the heat on. You know, you throw a couple bucks in the box. They got a bathroom in there. You know, it's a really nice facility.
Well, it was actually redone last year, too. So
what?
It's even nicer back there, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I got to go now.
Yeah,
I'm going to go get my thing renewed.
It's really nice back there.
All right, you said Bowhunter's Den, license renewed.
Bowhunter Superstore.
Superstore.
Yep.
I keep calling it Den.
Either that or the Trading Post here in town selling them as well, in Franklintown selling them as well.
Where is the Trading Post?
So if you're going up Main Street in Franklintown, if you turn down Cabin Hollow Road, the first right, he'll have signs there on the corner. If you make that right, I think honestly, I've never been in there, but if it's a place I'm thinking of, it looks like an old barn up there on the right hand side.
I take my stuff to Nell's in
East Berlin. Yeah.
East Berlin.
Yep.
There's two Nell's, two brothers. I take it to the one that's actually like right behind East Berlin on the farm there.
Yeah.
So I usually take Cabin Hollow Road going over that way sometimes if I don't go whatever the route that is that takes you to the square. But yeah, I've been down Cabin Hollow Road was the point because that'll take you out that way.
Yep.
So I've seen it online and I've heard about it, and actually I think John Henry Whitetails Down, I think he sells merch over there.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think he does.
I think he does. Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yep.
I actually met. Funny how I meet you guys. He was my realtor.
Oh, really?
And I met him, and my wife comes home one day, and I've been dying to find a local archery guy, and she like handed me your card, and I was like, oh, I was like, finally. And then I like look at the address, and I'm like, Pine Street. Where's Pine Street? And then I found out where Pine Street was. I'm like, dude, this guy lives like less than a mile away from me.
We were driving here this morning, and when I realized where Chainsaw Road was, which it should have dawned on me sooner, but I was like, he wasn't joking. We are really close to each other. We're right around the corner.
I told you. I was like, dude, I pass your house all the time because so this road back behind our house goes down to Tuckahoe.
Yes.
So like if I come home from like Sheets or something, I'll go the back way.
Yep.
So like I'll come down and go back up Tuckahoe and then come up our back little road there, and I pass your house all the time. And like anytime I pass your house, I'm like, that's my archer guy. I'll be with buddies. I'm like, that's my archer guy. Look him up.
Yep.
And I've given your card out to like my cousin and you know brother-in-law, and I'm like, dude, look this guy up. You know what I mean? If you have bow problems, they'll shoot crossbows. But
I can now work on crossbows.
Well, that's what my dad. But so I told you, I was like, dude, I'm gonna bring my dad's bow to you, right?
Yeah.
And he had like a Burnett.
Mm-hmm.
I say that right, Burnett?
Barnett, yep.
Barnett. We were out back here shooting.
Mm-hmm.
He put the limb on a tree to try to stabilize it, and I was like, but I wanted it. He needed a new bow.
Right.
He released, and the arm just goes, I think I called you 2 weeks earlier and was like, "Hey man, can you do crossbows?" You're like, "Well, blah 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 blah," and he came over to shoot and broke it. That's why I never called you about the crossbow.
Okay,
because you wound up getting that Raven.
Yeah,
like a month later.
Yep.
So it was ironic story, but it's awesome that you make crossbow strings now because I can refer these other guys say.
Correct. Yeah, I just started making crossbow strings. I've had a lot more guys ask me for crossbow strings, and a lot of guys ask me to work on their crossbows.
Yeah.
Well, you remember I had the power press.
Right.
On that power press, you can only press bows up to 70 pounds, and it didn't go short enough. So I said, you know what? I need to get something else. I actually sold my power press. I just yesterday got it and got it set up, a new press and draw board that I can do crossbows on.
That's awesome.
So I can now press crossbows and work on them.
Do you have pictures of your shop? Can you give me some pictures? You gotta send me some pictures so I can throw it on here.
Yeah.
I like throwing pictures in. It makes it a little interactive. You know,
I
clean it up or whatever you want to do. I mean, you don't have to clean it up. I don't give a shit, but just take some pictures and be like, boom, boom, boom. Because like, for what you did and where you put it and how it's set up, like
I've actually moved. I moved upstairs.
Oh.
So did I show you?
You let him upstairs? You see her face? I knew there was a face. I knew there was a face. I looked over. She's like,
So did I show you the bar when you were there?
yeah.
It's now in where the bar was.
Okay.
And the bar
That's
went
a
down to
big
the basement.
room.
Yeah. Sadly enough, I'm actually outgrowing that room as well now too.
That's a terrible problem to have, man.
It's funny. I was actually in the garage last night doing something. And I started looking around, and I started thinking, I wonder if I build an additional garage for her to park in, if she'll let me have the garage for my shop.
That's so. How I set this up, where this beam used to be, there was a closet here.
Mm-hmm.
I literally was like, we didn't need the closet space, so I was like, where can I put this where I won't get yelled at? And I just was like, I'll rip out the closet and put it down in this little corner, and it's just enough space.
So I do have to say, when we first bought our house, she actually told me to turn the bar into my archery room. I'm like, no, the bar looks good here. I'll just use this little room in the basement. Well, as you saw, I very quickly outgrew that room.
Yeah.
So we ended up moving the bar downstairs and moving up into the bar. But yeah, like I said, it's
So two things. First off, I got to come over and see it now.
Yeah.
Second thing is you got to take some pictures and send to me so I can throw it in the podcast.
Yeah.
I like the little visual.
I'll take some when I get home today.
But yeah, that's cool, and that's a big room. So I mean, the fact that you're business is kind of picking up and you're getting the name out there.
And I tell you what, so people have asked me, I never really did any advertising. I was solely relying on word of mouth for a few reasons.
Yeah.
One, I have a kid that's getting ready to go to college. I had a daughter that just got married last year. I don't have money to do advertising. I'm a small business. But the other reason is, a lot of these larger string companies, and I'm not calling anybody out, but a lot of these larger string companies, when they started growing, their quality went down because they're not the ones making their strings anymore.
Yeah.
They have to hire employees to come in and do it, and I don't ever want to get to that point. I want to be, when you order a string from me, I'm the one that made it. And I'm putting the same quality product out every single time.
Yeah.
But what's really cool is even just word of mouth. I was talking to a guy from Alabama the other day. He's like, oh, yeah. He said, I've heard of you. You're actually on my short list for strings. And I told her, I was like, dude, I'm in Alabama now, apparently.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's kind of cool how that can kind of just come together. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what I told her too. Like a lot of with me shooting competitive archery, there's sometimes I don't want to go to a competition, but I've got to go because people see me. And I was shooting PSAA regionals last weekend or the weekend before, I forget what it was. And I had people come over and start talking to me that I don't know, but they knew me.
Yeah.
And I like, hey, how are you doing?
That's got to make you feel good though, because it's starting to build something.
Right.
You know what I mean? And building something's important. You know, and I got a buddy who's building a thing on boat soaps, and it's all about the name.
Right.
You know what I mean? And how you treat people and how you're perceived.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. You know, that's awesome. What made you get into competitive archery? Like that fueled. I mean, I know you said you're a competitive guy, this, that, and the other, but like, what made you stick to it? Like, it was an edge. Like, what drawed you into like getting so intense with it? I mean,
so for me, I honestly never even thought about competitive archery, but I was working at the archery shop. A few of our customers who I had become friends with, they shot 3D. And the one said, hey, there's a world's qualifier this weekend. Why don't you come with me?
right.
I'm like, dude, I only have a hunting bow. So we pulled a
That's
target.
me.
We pulled a target bow off the wall. I set up a target bow that night, went down, and I qualified for Worlds.
Wow.
So now, that being said, it's because people hear that and they go, oh, you're great. Well, they take the top 20 shooters from each shoot to Worlds, and we only had like 5 guys in my class that day. But that's why. But still qualified for Worlds, and being down there and shooting that level of competition, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So from there, I shot strictly 3D for a few years, and I joined Dillsburg, and a few of the guys like, hey, we're in this CVAL league. We shoot indoor every winter, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you come back and shoot with us? So last year I shot indoor, probably the last half of the season with them, and I actually really enjoyed it.
See, that's something I could easily see myself enjoying, but even when, after I left and you did my bow and, last time we saw each other, I was like, I couldn't get past the shake part. But since you're telling me all this stuff about...
If you could see so for indoor, I don't shoot a pin, I shoot a dot. If you could see my dot I shot last night for league, actually. My dot floats around that yellow.
Yeah.
I mean, it just floats right around it. Now, a lot of that comes with your setup. Like, I definitely have slowed my float down. One of the new things I've just purchased is the Dead Center Pro Balancer, where I can throw my bow in there, throw my bars on, and I can balance that bow dead level, playing with the weights and stuff.
Yeah.
Having done that, at the outdoor show, I bought this new product called the Manus X, which when you shoot, I don't have any on me to show you. Actually, I might have to look then. But it patterns your bow. So it's a device you put on your bow, and then you open the app on your phone, and it shows you your shot cycle the whole way through the shot.
Really?
And that showed me what I needed to tweak and what I needed to fix.
The Manus X?
Manus X, yep.
And that's an app?
It's a device you have to buy, and then there's an app that you download.
Device you buy, and what do you record yourself?
No, what it is, I can actually show you quick. Let me open it up here because I have some saved. So these are some of my shots here. You can actually show you your shot cycle. So the blue is me raising into my shot, and then you can see me coming down into my shot. The red and the orange are the hold and the release. So you can see, and you can actually play it through the shot. Let me see it real quick. So I can actually play it through the shot. You can see me coming into it there, and then it coming down, and then you'll see the hold, and then you'll see the release.
Wow. That's cool.
And that white line, that's actually showing you the can of your bow as well, too.
Can you send me that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That video?
I don't know if I can send you the video. I'll have to play with that later and see if I can actually send it.
You can get a record app, like a record your screen app on your phone.
Okay.
It's like in the App Store, if I can get my phone to come up. But like, it'll do, like, record it.
Oh, okay.
So like, I can hit record it and then start recording and then go to like that and I can snip it up.
Yeah.
But I'd like to put that in there so people could kind of see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it also shows you your score, too. And when we were first looking at it, she told us Brady Ellison scored a 96 or 98. I forget what it was. And then I have it right now to where I'm scoring a 98.5.
Wow.
And now Brady Ellison, I'm not sure if you know who he is. He's an Olympic recurve archer.
Brady Ellis.
He actually just out at Vegas was the very first recurve archer to shoot a perfect 900 at Vegas.
Perfect 900.
Yeah.
I take notes. Sorry, I'm that guy. I gotta know and look into it.
Yep.
That's awesome. So like, are you coaching people too? Like, I mean, you say you got a guy you have like a team with, or like, how's that work?
I have done lessons when I worked at the shop. I'm actually a level 2 certified USA archery coach.
Wow.
Now I haven't done any lessons since I worked at the shop or anything. But like I do, so when I first started with having this stuff in my house, my goal wasn't to have customers at the house.
Right.
It was just to work on my own stuff.
Yeah. That's how everything starts, right?
However, when I left the shop, people started seeking me out because they wanted me to work on their bows. As a matter of fact, my one staff shooter, Brady, his dad called me up. He had a shoot coming up, and something was going on. I forget what it was, but he said, nobody's allowed to touch his bow but you. I'm like, all right, well, bring it over quick. So we got it worked out. But that's how that aspect kind of grew. And in that, like, I'll have people ask me questions and stuff, and I'll help them. And I'm by no means an expert. Like, I'm still learning stuff myself. But if I can help somebody out, I absolutely will.
That's the key of it, though. Always learning. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And even as a person, the second I start to think I'm an expert on something, and then that like little bit of humility sets in,
Right.
I realize I don't know anything. You know what I mean? There's like you meet that guy who knows 10 times more than you, and you kind of like,
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
that's life, man. There's always somebody that knows more than you. But
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? So like, run us through the process of making a string. Like, what goes into it? Because I've seen the shop, you know what I mean, and I kind of get an idea. But do you got to measure a draw length? Is it just like you see a string and you cut it and like pull it off and you're like, that's how long that is? You know what I mean? What do you do?
So what it is most bows, you have to get the string length and cable lengths off the bow. Some bows will actually have it marked on the bow. Other bows, it may be have to go to a website to find it, whatnot. Once you have the lengths, then I have a formula that I put in that gives me my twist ratio and then what the finish length should be compared to the layout length.
Right.
And from there, I'll lay it out to the layout length, and I'll get my end servings done and all that, which is the end loops. I do a tag end serving on mine. I don't do. You'll see some guys use a 4-post jig where they'll actually use a serving to do the end loop.
4-post jig. Got to write that down.
Yeah, I just do a tag end serving on mine. I like it. It seemed to work well for me, so I've just stuck with it. And then from there, I just twist it, and then it goes on the stretcher. And I mean, every company has their own little process that they're all tight-lipped about.
Right.
And I do have some things that I do special as well. I mean, nothing super extraordinary, just in different ways I do my stretching and stuff.
You got to have your staple.
Right. But what I do, I mean, like I said, then once I get it twisted up and everything, it goes on the stretcher. So back in the day, everything got stretched for 24 hours. That was the standard. That's what you had to do. These new materials, you don't really have to. Like, I've done strings where I've not stretched at all, and they're fine. But I know 24 hours, so that's what I stick with. When I build a string, I stretch for 24 hours. And then after that, I let it rest for a day or so, and then after I get it served. And there again, the serving specs, they can be difficult to find sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Some companies will give them to you handily. I know, like, Hoyt has theirs on their website now. PSE, I've been able to get. A few other companies I can contact, and they'll send them to me. Other companies will not give out their serving specs.
How was Bear to work with for mine?
I actually had those specs already,
All
honestly.
right.
Yeah, because I had worked on one already. So I actually, that was a bow where I actually had the bow.
Yeah.
So I took the strings off and I measured. So
Okay.
I made my own spec sheet for that.
They, I don't know. The guy I used to go to, and he was, if it wasn't a Matthews, he hated it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he just didn't want to work on it. And it was almost like he did it, but he just like, it was like disgruntled about it. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like, I finally was like, I got to find a guy up here. And then lo and behold, and you know, I'm not a pro Bear guy. I kind of like their old school recurve mentality.
Yep.
But I definitely don't, I can tell you I don't like my bow.
Right.
It just doesn't seem consistent. You know, it doesn't, I don't feel like the quality is there. You know what I mean? With the Bear. And I know it's kind of like a box store thing. It's sort of Field and Stream, Dix, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously everybody has one. But I just kind of want to move to something else. And I don't want to move to the Matthews cult.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with Matthews. I know plenty of guys that shoot Matthews.
Right.
But I'm always that guy who likes to shoot the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, you know, if they see it and you're like, it's a piece of junk, I want to be like,
Look what I did, buddy.
yeah, I want to be that guy.
Yep.
And so, like, I always pick the underdog brand, which is kind of like why I still sort of stick with brand, because everybody talks crap on it.
Yeah.
But I do want to kind of get something different, and I know you're so is PSC?
I shoot PSC, yep.
Yeah, so, like, and I know you and I talked about Hoyt,
Mm-hmm.
and you're pretty much like, got to be a bow mechanic, basically, if you want a Hoyt. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? So, like, I'm soul searching right now.
So here's the thing, and so like even our group back at the club, every bow company makes good bows.
Right.
You've got to find something that works for you and that's comfortable with you. Even Hoyt is a good bow. I'm not a fan of them, but they're a decent bow. Guys shoot them well. But like we harass each other. Like the other night, they were getting on me about my PSC, and I'm like, I haven't seen any Hoyts climbing a podium lately. So I mean, we harass each other. It's just what we do. But like I said, you got to shoot a couple bows.
Yeah.
You got to line them up and shoot each one and say, okay, this one is what I liked about this. This one didn't feel good. That one's definitely out of the running. They all make good bows. You just got to get what's comfortable for you and what shoots for you.
Who's, like, guys at the club, what are they shooting? Like, other competitors?
We've got them all back there. We've got Hoyt, PSE, obviously, Matthews, Elite. Everybody's shooting
Elite's
something
a big
different
one.
back there. Yeah.
Elite's a big one. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So, like, you was talking about the materials of the string.
Mhm.
What is it actually? Is it it's not nylon or
It's a Dyneema Vectran blend. Yeah.
a what?
Dyneema Vectran blend. Yep.
I don't even know what that is or what it would be, but it's got to be strong, obviously.
Yeah, it is. So with the combination, you're getting the strength and durability and the low. You're still getting a little bit of stretch in it, in the material, but it's not So when you're talking about, there's a difference between creep and stretch in the material. With the material, the build of it, you're still getting a little bit of stretch, but you're not getting the creep, which the creep is where it stretches out over time and doesn't come back.
Ah, okay.
Right, and with that blend material, you're still getting the elasticity of it, but not getting that creep.
I mean, it makes sense,
Right.
but I would have never even, what you just said, I wouldn't even thought of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Yep.
I know they stretch.
It's a blend that works well together because the one material has no stretch, the other material has a little bit of stretch, and they work well together to build a solid string.
Yeah. So when you're talking about like the process, though, the 4-post jig, and then you're saying the tag and serving, is that like?
So the way I do mine, so you'll have guys, like I said, when they use a 4-post jig, they'll lay their string out and then they'll take serving on a jig and make the end loop. Me, I just lay mine out on a 2-post, and then I take the ends of the string and wrap them back over the string to form the end serving.
Okay, you got to give me pictures of this.
Yep.
Because you're blowing. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And obviously, some of your guys would be like, "This retard doesn't know what he's talking about." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't."
Yeah.
But
and that's the thing. Like a tag end serving, it's when I first started, I hated it because I was like, "This isn't the right way to do it." But it works for me, and I can't do a 4-post jig right now. But I've come to learn that my tag end servings are actually better than some guys' regular end servings.
right.
So it just takes practice. You got to work with it.
It's
It worked for me, so I stuck with it.
yeah. So let's talk about your gear. I mean, you brought stuff with you. I mean, I want to know what's your setup and why.
Mhm.
And let's just get into that a little bit. I mean, talk about the different bows.
All right.
I want what's your hunting setup versus your
Yeah.
comp setup, your competition setup. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like,
So the reason I brought 2 bows with me is I brought my 3D bow and my indoor bow.
okay,
And the reason I brought them both is I was telling you earlier about I'm having new string material that I'm working with.
yeah,
This is my 3D bow. This is the new string material I was telling you about. So this material that I made this string out of the company's called Bloodline,
bloodline.
and it's their VEC 99. It's a waxless material. If you feel that right there, you'll feel how it feels like a little oily.
Yeah,
Yeah, this string you don't ever wax. It's a waxless string.
dude, that feels
It's a
legit.
Yeah, it's a proprietary blend of theirs. I have another friend who's a builder who has a shooter that shoots this stuff, and he said he has over 4,000 or 5,000 shots on his bow, I think it is, and the string still looks brand new.
What?
Now this string I just put on last week, so I definitely need to get out and shoot it some. But from a building aspect, I love building with this material because of the slickness of it. It definitely has a learning curve to it because of the slickness to it. When I'm doing my tagging service trying to pull them tight, it's slipping out of my hands.
Yeah,
However, and you can see when I flip this over here, when I was talking about the end loops,
yeah.
I mean, it forms a nice tight end loop. Like it because of how slick it is, it slips right together, forms a nice tight loop, and the bundle it forms is really nice too.
Dude, that thing. Now, this is your which bow?
This is my 3D bow.
3D bow.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this stuff here.
Okay.
Like, what is this guy?
So this is a new light that I'm shooting this year. It's called an ETAC. And I forgot to bring my sight, so I can't show you how cool it is. But this light, when I turn it on, I currently have the timer set for 10 seconds. If the bow sits motionless for 10 seconds, and actually I can show you even without the light on the sight. So when I turn it on, it'll come on. Again, I'm pretty sure I have it set for 10 seconds. So the reason I went with this light is I actually liked it for hunting purposes first.
Okay.
Because, and I can show you here in a few seconds when it goes to sleep. I've got to make sure we don't bump the table or anything. So right now it's going to sleep, okay? So now the light's off.
Yeah.
If I'm out in the woods and a deer comes in, if you're running a light, you got to reach up, turn the light on. This here, all I do is touch my bow and it comes back on.
Whoa.
It's got a motion sensor built into it. So that's why I originally liked this light.
This is why we can't hang out, because you showed me a bunch of stuff I want.
Well, I tell you what, the other good thing about this light, it's so normal sight lights, you're looking at $160, $170, $125 for an entire kit. Comes in a nice black plastic case with a car charger, a wall charger, your LED, everything.
So it's got like a built-in battery?
Yep, the battery life, like this here, I have charged one time when I got it. I've had it on a few times, but I think I'm still at 100%.
Dude, that's the thing. I have those, like, the cheap, like, Trophy Ridge style with the lights on them.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times that stupid thing untwists itself, and then I lose it in the woods, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yep.
where's my light? You know what I mean? It's just gone. You know,
Yeah.
and then you got to buy another one. I literally buy backups, and
Right.
it's like, the watch battery, blah, blah, blah.
And that's the other cool thing with this light too, is in the kit, again, for $125, so almost $70 less than some of the other sight lights, you get a kit with multiple different mounting options.
Yeah.
Instead of just, you got to throw the Velcro straps around your bar. This is just one of the options I had with this, and I liked it, so that's how I mounted it like this.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then this goes, that's where the rest?
This is for my sight. Yeah.
So all right, you're going to have to walk me through how you can take a sight on and off a bow, and because to me, that's not possible. You know what I mean? I'm used to the pins,
Right.
and I still have like the newer style pins. It's like a scope you look through. In my mind, that's like taking the Lord's name in vain right there. You're not allowed to do that. So the fact that that's possible,
right.
Give us the rundown.
So the reason for this is on my target bows, I run a 9-inch bar, and my sight is usually a good 7 inches out in front of my bow. I'm not getting that in any case with that. So that's why they have the dovetail sights. You can take one of them off your bow. Now, like I said, I wish I'd have thought about it and brought the sight with me. I just didn't. But the sight, the dovetail has markings, so I know I'm in the exact same spot every single time. Like this specific sight here, actually, I shoot the Achieve XP on my sight on my target bows. It actually clicks as it passes each notch, so I know I'm in the exact same position every time. And I run it every time with 4 dots behind the bracket. That's just how I know to run it.
That's so cool.
Yep.
And is that the same site you're still running that you and I were talking about?
I think I had that site when we talked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have several of those sites because I have one for each bow. So.
Good thing you're sponsored. All right, let's talk about your. That's not a drop away, is it?
Nope, that's just a regular blade rest. That's the Shrewd Remedy.
Shrewd Remedy.
Yep.
What's the gauges on there? Degrees. What do you do there? Like,
so the degrees.
Give us some details.
So the degrees are so that you can set the blade at different angles. I found between 30 and 35 is the best degree for most of my setups. And then the numbers here are just for moving it left, right, up, or down.
Okay. Question. Could you use that hunting?
You could, but I wouldn't use a blade rest hunting.
Right, because you're
gonna be fumbling around a lot more than you are with a target bow.
Right. So tree stand hunting, and I tell people this, and a lot of people have that problem of they're in the tree stand, they put it right on the deer, and they shoot low or high, and it's like, no, you got to be able to compensate for that angle,
right?
Because you're not shooting straight,
right,
or uphill versus downhill. You got to know aim high or low, right?
Yeah.
So something like that, it's like, how would you know what degree to have it
well,
set?
No, that's not what that is. That's actually that stays on whatever.
That would just stay. So you wouldn't mess with that at all.
Yeah, that's for my setup. Like I think I have it set on 32 degrees. That doesn't ever move. That always stays on 32 degrees.
I got it. So why would it ever be on 70 versus what's it go down to?
I think 20 maybe.
Yeah. So why would that be higher or lower?
So here's the thing with that. Again, getting into technical stuff, I can't tell you why they offer such a variation. Most of your guys are going to shoot between 30 and 35.
That's just the golden goose.
Yeah.
30, 35.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, you will have to adjust it depending on your arrows. So if I'm running a heavier arrow, I might put a little more angle it up a little higher.
Okay. See, now that clicks. That makes sense. That makes sense. So you got to get a little bit more arc on there.
Mm-hmm. For my setup, like I said, between 30 and 35 works for every one of my setups.
I like it. That's a sick bow.
Thank you.
Every time I see you and your bows, plural, because you got 70, I want a PSE every time.
Funny thing about this one, I actually just got this bow in a trade.
Can I touch it?
Absolutely.
That's what she said.
Sorry,
couldn't help myself.
So I just got this bow in a trade because I was up at the outdoor show and I shot the 3D competition, and I was shooting the Evoke 35 for 3D. And I came back and I was talking to our PSE rep. I'm like, dude, I can't get comfortable with this bow, and I don't know why. I said, it's a great bow. I just can't shoot it comfortably. And I said, I'm shooting the Focus XL so well for indoor. Maybe I ought to look at a regular Focus for 3D. And one of our shooters, his head snapped up. He said, I want a 35 and I have a Focus. I'm like, well, let's trade.
Yeah, go for it.
So after we shot the finals that weekend at the outdoor show, we traded bows.
I asked you about this before,
Mhm.
stabilizer bar.
Yep.
And I can't remember what you told me. Dead center.
Dead center. Yep.
I'm always screwing mine in and screwing it off because it won't fit in my bow case.
Right.
You know, when I go hunting.
Mhm.
And I don't want to do that. Is this something that you can rig up to work with anything, or will it only work with dead center stabilizers?
No, you can use it with any stabilizers. I recommend dead center.
Dead center.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Dead center. I've shot a lot of different bars over the years, and dead center are phenomenal bars. They've worked the best for me. They feel the best. They feel like they work the best with my bows.
Do you like a lot of weight?
It depends on the bow. I found out. So when I was having some trouble with indoor this year with my XL when I first started, and I started playing on our weights, I didn't realize I had almost 2 pounds of weights on my back bar at one point. So
What?
yeah, so I have it now, have it down to I think 15 ounces on the back. And again, it's going to depend on the bow. Like I had this bow in the balancer the other day, and compared to my XL, it takes a completely different weight setup.
That's crazy. See, I like the weight though. I feel like that kind of helps.
Heavy is steady.
See, heavy is steady. That I put in. You know, I'm shooting trophy ridge stuff, so it's like I'm like slapping on all. Like I had to buy an extra stabilizer bar so I could get more of the rings to like shovel in the end,
Right.
and be like, you know what I mean? Because it heavy is steady.
So I'll tell you, I've always been under that same belief, and I will say it now. This heavy is steady to an extent.
Don't put a 10-pound dumbbell on the end.
Now that being said, you have guys like Mike Schlosser who are shooting 24 ounces on the front of their bow.
Right.
I mean, these guys are shooting heavy weights on their stabilizers. It's what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
That makes sense. It makes sense. So okay, you said this was the 3D bow, right?
this is my 3D bow. Yep.
What's the next bow you got? Because I know you brought two.
I have my indoor bow with me as well, and you're
Okay.
gonna love this one. I don't know if you've seen this one yet.
Oh,
So this is my indoor bow. And now this string is the BCY 452X, this material I typically use. And,
Right.
you can feel the difference between the two strings.
what's that guy's name? Nighthawk?
Nighthawk.
Who's the Avenger?
Oh, I think it is, yeah.
They're doing it wrong. They need to have this bow. This thing looks awesome.
So funny thing about this bow. So I was at our PSC rep's house one day. He had this exact. So this collar is one of our stock collars this year. However, it comes with black limbs. And I was at his house, and he had this exact same setup, this bow with the white limbs. And I told him, I was like, dude, that is the ugliest fucking bow I've ever seen in my life.
I think it looks sick.
Well, I left his house, and like 20 minutes later, I called him. I'm like, hey, I need that bow. I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I need that bow. So we went ahead and ordered it, and we ordered the white limbs with it and everything. And I absolutely love it. I love the setup. And when I don't ever have, when I'm making strings for myself, I don't ever have a set. I got to have this color. I want this color. So I bought the bow, and it was probably a good 2 weeks before I made strings for it, because I laid the bow down and laid materials next to him. Like, all right, what's going to work with this bow? And this is what I landed on, and it worked out great. And I originally was going to do clear serving over the whole thing. And I got to doing the center serving. I was like, well, shit, I can't do a clear center serving. So what do I want to do? I was like, well, red will go with this. I was like, well, if I'm doing red, I might as well do red on the ends. And I'm glad I did, because it looks really well the way it ended up.
It does. Now, this string is not the same as that string, correct?
Correct. This is the BCY 452X.
BCY 452X.
Yep.
BCY 452X. So, is this string also looks thicker?
They're actually about the same diameter.
Really?
What I've found is the bloodline, for some reason, just forms a little tighter bundle.
Now, it also kind of seems weird, like when I run my fingers over it, it's like a rougher.
Right, because this string doesn't
the other.
have the chemical makeup of that string.
Gotcha.
So this one actually does need wax.
and you
stuff.
you do
Yeah.
wax it.
Yep.
Okay. So like lengthwise,
This one's 40 inches axle to axle.
how about the other one?
That one's 37.
Why?
Just the design of the bows. Now, I like
But why would you pick one over the other for what you're shooting?
the longer the axle to axle, the steadier the bow's going to be for you. The more forgiving the bow's going to be.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So longer the actual, more steady,
More forgiving, yeah.
Okay. And why wouldn't you be able to use that? I mean, I guess you could use that for this is the indoor versus 3D, right?
So yeah, you can. And actually, the first time I ever shot a 40-inch axle bow, I was like, I hate this. It's not for me. It's too long. But when this bow came out and I looked at it for a little bit, I was like, yeah, let's give it a try. It actually shoots really well for me now. And now I don't know if I'd want to take a 40-inch axle to axle through the woods for 3D, which is why I went with so this is the Super Focus XL.
Oh, so you're
That's the Super Focus.
when you're saying 3D, you're actually shooting a 3D target, not
Correct.
at a 3D screen.
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that was like.
Yep.
I want to clarify that because I was thinking 3D screen shooting
Right.
because a lot of people like to be like, I'm shooting 3D and they're going to shoot a
Right.
screen. So that makes sense now. So would that be the reason for the light on the other one versus not having a light on here?
Correct. Because on my 3D bow, I shoot a pin. I shoot a lighted pin.
Gotcha. Okay, and what are you shooting on here?
I shoot just a regular scope with a lens with a dot on it.
Scope, lens, and dot.
Mhm.
Is that because the yardage is always going to be the same?
Right. When I'm shooting indoor, it's always 20 yards. It's never
Always
changes.
the same, never
Yes.
changes.
Yep.
Okay, got it. And
But as far as the dot, the reason for that is some organizations you're not allowed to shoot a lighted pin. So that's why. It's just in their rules. You just can't shoot a lighted pin.
that seems weird.
It's what their rules have always been, so that's what
They
it
just
is.
keep it. They just
Yep.
keep it. Besides that, I mean, the rest of the setup looks the same as far as your rest.
So I shoot the exact same. I'm a creature of habit. I hate, and I've always been this way. Even before I shot for certain companies, if I have one bow set up one way, I gotta have the exact same equipment on the other bow. So in every single one of my bows, I shoot an Excel sight. Now, depending on what it is, it may be a different Excel sight, but most of them are the same. All my target bows, I shoot the Shrewd Remedy for arrest. I shoot dead center stabilizers on all my bows.
Extrude Remedy?
The Shrewd Remedy.
Shrewd.
Yeah.
Shrewd Remedy.
Yeah.
I'm just asking because I'm going to put a picture in so people know what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
then Excel. What are your different Excels?
So the one I have on my outdoor bows is the Achieve XP.
Achieve XP.
Yep.
Outdoor.
And then my indoor bow is just the regular Achieve.
Achieve for indoor. Okay. That way people just know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I obviously it looks like the same stabilizer setup.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Same mount, same bars, everything.
So you said something interesting that I still don't understand and can't grasp the whys.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned arrow weights
Yep.
and talking about degrees and why you would adjust.
Mm-hmm.
If you're done with this, I want to segue kind of into arrows because I don't understand why you would choose different arrows. To me, and you and I talked about Carbon Express before, and you used to shoot them. You don't shoot them anymore.
Right.
I've just shot Carbon Express because everybody's like, Carbon Express is the best back in the day. And I know everybody's sort of getting away from that and getting to stuff now that I've never even heard of. Like, John, Whitetails Down, he shoots Full Metal Jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of guys. I think Cam Haynes also shoots Full Metal Jackets, if I'm not mistaken. Give us some knowledge on different arrows and why.
So what I like Black Eagle arrows.
Black Eagle arrows.
Yep. And the reason for that is, I actually had an issue with, I was shooting Carbon Express.
Yeah.
I was at a shoot, and in one shoot, I had two of them just literally explode on me. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm the kind of guy, like, if that happens, I'm done. Like,
You're done.
I went to the shop that day when I was done with that shoot, and I said, I need arrows.
Throw them all away.
Yep,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
That was wet. Keep going.
so we started looking at arrows and stuff, and I ended up landing on Black Eagle. And so the first Black Eagles I ever got were the Challengers, which are the same size as the 23s, but I got them for 3D. And what sold me is I took my son to a Worlds qualifier for IBO.
Yeah.
And I was shooting with them, and my bow, I was having some issues with my bow that day. And the one target was a bedded doe up on a hillside right in front of a tree. And I shot under her, stuck my arrow right in the roots of the tree, and I thought for sure my arrow was done.
She toast.
Went up, pulled it out, arrow was fine. I kept on shooting it.
What?
We had then we came up to another target. I think 4 or 5 targets later, there was an alligator down in the creek bed down a real steep hillside. And when I shot, I heard my arrow just bouncing off the rocks. I'm like, all right, just bring me back whatever piece you can find so I can save the knock and stuff. He comes up, hands me my arrow, and says, here, you're good to go. It did not bust my arrow.
What?
I was like, all right, I'm sold. So My first Black Eagles, I actually went with the 23s here. These are what I shoot for 3D. They're a 23/64 diameter. So the reason we shoot a little thicker arrow for 3D is to catch lines. Because say I shoot the line of the 1110, I get the higher score.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll see in target a lot of the times guys are shooting the thicker arrows to catch those lines.
So what's that 350?
That's the spine of the arrow. I shoot a 350 spine for my 3D bow.
350, that's the spine. And what's the .001?
That's the tolerance.
Tolerance.
Yeah.
Tolerance. And this is a Black Eagle PS
23. Yep.
23.
Yep.
PS 23. And this is your, which?
That's my 3D.
3D.
Yep.
3D. Okay. And do they come pre-fletched?
No, I fletch all my own arrows.
Is that just stick on? You glue that?
That's glued on, yeah. Yep, I have the.
I wouldn't trust myself doing that. Shake your hands.
I tell you what, I've come up with a combination. I found a glue that works great, a fletching jig. So a lot of your shops are using Bitzenberger jigs, which is what I used when I first started. Great jig, they work well. But I've stumbled across a Last Chance Veinmaster Pro. I absolutely love this thing. I love this vein jig.
You're going to have to explain to us
jig.
how a jig would work for this, because in my mind, I'm putting this in my vice press down in the shop and just being like, whip.
So the way the jig works is you actually put the arrow in the jig, and there's a clamp that holds the vein. And you'll have a knob on the back that spins your arrow, and it'll have clicks. So you can have it set up for a 3 fletch, a 4 fletch. It'll stop it in the right position.
Ah.
And then the clamp, you can, so on mine specifically, the Veinmaster Pro, I can set the clamp up for 1 through 5 degree helical left or right. So you'll see I run these with a left helical. I typically run a 2 to 3 degrees, what I usually run. But yeah, all you do is you put the arrow in the clamp or the jig, and then put your vein in the clamp, slap your glue on it, slide it into position, puts it on the.
Is that looking for spin or anything, or like?
As far as the helical?
Yeah.
So what you'd want to do is if you're running helical, most guys will only run a slight offset. But if you are running helical, what you actually want to do is you want to see what your string likes. Like I know for certain my strings, when the arrow comes off a bow with one of my strings on, it turns to the left. So that's why we all run left helical if you're shooting my strings.
Why do you like when you're saying you're like spin to the left? Is that what you mean by turn to the left?
Correct. Yeah, it spins to the left. So if you stand 3 yards away, take a shot. So the way I would test is you see that one of the things I like about Black Eagle too is. Now, I still run all mine through a spine tester, but typically you'll find between the wings is the spine of this arrow, which you'll always want your cock vein on the spine anyway. You want that spine up. So if you knock an arrow spine up, shoot it about 3 yards or so, you'll see it maybe like that in the target.
Right.
Pull it out, load it, spine up, shoot from 6 yards, and maybe a little farther that way. That's how you'll see it spin into the left when it comes off.
Ah,
Yep.
Okay. Enlightened again.
And because of my strings, the direction I twist them, it spins the arrow left coming off.
Makes sense.
Yep.
All makes sense. Okay. Yep. So there's the 3D arrow.
Yep.
What else we got?
So I got my indoor arrow. This is a PS 27. You see that one's a little thicker there. And again, reason for that is catching lines.
PS 27.
Mm-hmm.
Black Eagle. And then... See, what's kind of crazy is it still says 350 to 1, and that's just tensile, the strength. And what was the other one? 0.01 was?
The
tolerance.
Tolerance, yeah.
Okay. What's the diameter difference? Do you know?
Those are 27/64. These are 23/64.
Oh, okay. So that's actually what that number means.
Yep.
Is that like a millimeter difference? Like, what's the math? What's the number mean? Does it mean anything? Like, if somebody said... Does that number stand for something is what I'm kind of getting at. Like, in the nut and bolt world, if you measure it, it's a 1/4 inch versus a 3/8 versus a 1/2 inch. Versus,
right.
You can kind of visualize.
Right.
So is that standard number stand for a circumference or anything? Or like, you know what I mean?
Well, the 27/64 is the diameter of the arrow.
Ah, see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I should have been able to figure that out. Makes sense.
Yep. Yes, that's what that is.
I like it. And you still obviously fletch those yourself too.
Yep, I do all my fletching myself.
You only ever do 3 fletch?
Yeah, I have not played before fletch. I don't know. I haven't been I've never really shot, so I can't say I'm not a fan of it. I just have no desire because 3 fletch works well for me.
Okay.
There's guys who shoot 4 fletch, love it, it works for them. my jig set for 3. It works for me. Why
Why
change what works?
Right. Exactly. All right. What do we got?
So these are the X Impacts. These are what I shoot at for outdoor and field and hunter. And the reason I shoot those, the small diameter like that, is we're shooting out to 80 yards with those. So I can shoot those on a windy day and not worry as much.
So is that the whole reason you would shoot thin at long range is wind?
You're not gonna the wind's not going to be a factor as much. I mean, it's still going to be a factor.
Well, yeah, it's always
but
sure.
It's not going to be as much of a factor shooting that long distance.
Now, will these still be rated for the same, 350?
Now, the other reason to shoot in the small diameter, too, is so field and hunter, we have 4 guys on a target, and we're each shooting 6 arrows. So you're packing a lot of arrows into that target. Another reason for the small diameter.
Could you hunt with this?
Some people do. One of my staff shooters, Brady, he hunts with the X Impacts.
Really?
Yeah.
Because, I just see how small it is, and I'd be worried about, obviously, most of that impact is coming from your type.
Well, I can tell you, he shot 14 deer this year, so... Yeah, he shot 14 deer, and 3 of them were giant bucks. Yeah. And he was shooting with X Impacts. I'm pretty sure he was still shooting the X Impacts this year.
It's all about placement. It's all about placement.
Yep.
Okay, so...
Yeah, he between Maryland, PA, and Oklahoma, I think it was, he shot 14 deer this year.
That's a lot of meat.
Yep.
That's a lot of meat.
They were actually giving us some because they couldn't fit any more in their freezer.
Yeah, so for all you guys out there freaking out about coronavirus and you can't get any food, maybe you should try hunting. It was funny because, people were like, oh, you're not taking all your cash out of the bank. You're not taking all the cash out of the bank. I'm like, for what? They're like, food. I'm like, there was 5 deer in my yard this morning. If it gets that desperate, I'm dropping one and that's lunch.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's what I told her. I said, we got deer running backyard. We got chickens. We're okay.
Yeah, we'll be fine. You got eggs. You got chickens. You got deer meat. I like it. Does that cover everything on that guy? I mean, all right, I got to ask another question. Fletching size. How do you know? Because I'm looking at this, and from what I'm seeing, 3 different arrows, 3 different fletch sizes, and we got another arrow sitting here, and it's a 4th fletch size.
Yep.
And another thing is they're shaped differently. So I'm just going to take this one. I know we didn't talk about this arrow yet, and if you don't mind, hand me that green one, the green arrow.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
You're good. There's 3 different style fletchings here.
Yes.
Why?
So,
I mean, obviously the size kind of makes sense. Smaller arrow, smaller fletch. But what's up with the curvage at the top versus a longer, wider vein versus a smaller vein?
So there's a few reasons. The smaller veins on the smaller, again, is because we're shooting 80 yards. So it's going to be a less drag on that arrow, and it's going to be less for the wind to catch, basically.
That makes sense.
As far as the hunting arrow, these are shield cut veins. The reason I don't run those on my hunting arrows is shield cut veins are actually noisy. They make some noise going through the air.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm sure there are some brands that don't, but the brand that I shoot and I like, I've noticed some noise with them, so I don't shoot them on my hunting arrows.
Okay. I get it.
Yep.
See, a lot of your guys who are hardcore into shooting are probably thinking I'm an idiot right now, but a lot of people that I know are going to watch this are going to be like,
I know guys
taking notes like I am right now. Oh yeah, it makes sense.
There are guys that hunt with shield cut arrows and have no issues. And when I say that, let's be honest, the shots I'm taking, I don't think the sound of a shield cut vein is going to scare a deer off. I think he's going to jump the string.
It's too fast.
But I'm still going to shoot I like these veins from hunting arrows.
Right.
So that's why I shoot them.
It makes sense. All right, so we got this other one. Mm-hmm. What's that? The Spartan there?
That's the Spartan. That is my hunting arrow.
This is the hunting arrow.
Yep.
So why this circumference? Why this arrow? Why these veins versus those veins? And I get we talked sound and this stuff, but why is this the choice for hunting?
I went through when I was deciding on a hunting arrow. I actually looked at a bunch of them. I actually debated using the X Impacts for hunting, but I like a standard size 1964 arrow, which the Spartan it's either 1964 or 1864. So I forget offhand.
So if you're going to your Field and Stream or your Dick's Sporting Goods, this is typically the circumference you're going to pick up.
Correct. Most of your most ball arrows, like the blue Carbon Express blue streaks, gold tip velocity stuff, they're 1964s.
Okay.
They're a standard size hunting arrow.
Got it. And then everything else, you got the fletches, you got the Nox. Do you do Luminox?
These are Luminox.
Should have known.
Yep.
I gotta get on that train.
So I actually was shooting nocturnals. I had a few issues with them not lighting this year, not coming on. Here again at the outdoor show, I got to speaking with the guy from Luminox and figured we'd give him a try.
So you always shoot with everything is Black Eagle here, even these Spartans, X Impacts.
Yep, Black Eagle's the only arrow I shoot for everything.
How'd you hear that?
About Black Eagle?
Just word of mouth? Or?
Word of mouth, yeah.
Word of mouth.
I actually started seeing them on 1 or 2 hunting shows when they first came out. And that's how I started hearing about them.
It makes sense. You know anybody that shoots the Full Metal Jackets?
I know a lot of people that shoot them. They're a decent arrow.
Arrow.
They're a good arrow. I don't like them because of the aluminum sheath.
Yeah.
Because they bend. That's why I don't like them. A lot of guys
I felt
love
the same
them.
way.
Well, a lot of guys love them. And then, don't get me wrong, they are a great arrow. I just don't like the fact that if my arrow's going to bust, I'd rather just bust rather than bend.
When these come, do they come pre-fletched?
You can buy them pre-fletched, yes.
See, the problem I get is when I buy, I buy the Carbon Express Reds.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're at the Blues now, but when I got them, Reds were still out, and they're probably still out now. But when you buy, that box of 6 at Field and Stream, and they cut them to size, by the time you get home and take those fletches out, they're all jacked. They're never,
right.
pristine like that. And
right.
you basically have to go through the box of 6 that you just paid X dollars for and be like, well, that one's a target one.
Right.
This one will save. This one will save. And then, it's kind of like the thing is like you said about, is it the same arrow?
Right.
Are the fletches actually straight? Because they'll get crinkled like that. And I'm not I'm not refletching.
And that's the great thing about refletching your own though. Honestly, you can get a jig cheap. Some of the boning jigs are $40.
Really?
You can get a jig and do it at your house. I mean, there's 1,000 glues out there you can use. There's all kinds of different ones. But say you're out target practice, you knock a vein off. It's nothing to run in your house and throw a vein back on. You know what I mean? It's nice to be able to do your own stuff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do my own stuff, but at least be able to do that. I'll let you do the rest of it.
Yeah.
But as far as the jig and the fletch, what kind of glue? I need a glue tip.
So the stuff I use is called Steve Sticky Stuff. Actually,
that's ironic. Steve Sticky Stuff. My friends will get a kick out of that.
I actually found him, a friend of mine who's another string builder. He had done a Facebook post about it, and I contacted him, and he gave the guy's contact information. He sells it. You have to get a hold of him on Facebook, and he sells it through Messenger. But it's very good stuff. It's actually comparable to Aerovane glue, but a fraction of the cost. So, for $20, I got a bottle of glue. I've had the same bottle for 3 years now.
Wow!
And he sends 12 tips with it. So for $20, it's a heck of a deal.
You can't beat it. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
All right, I like it. I'm gonna have to get one of those jigs and start refletching because I have a bunch in my closet over there that are all bent.
Actually, I wish I had thought about it. I just sold one of my jigs. I just sold it last week.
What'd you sell it for?
I think I sold it for $60, and it was one of the Bitzenbergers. So it was actually one of the higher end ones. Yeah, I just needed it out of my cabinet, so I threw it up cheap and hoping it would go quick. All
right, so arrows.
Mm-hmm.
Do we kind of cover everything? I mean, we got the thickness for what you're doing and windage. It all makes sense. And then, what you say, streak or path or the hit point, basically the reason you use the thicker arrow for.
Oh, so the thicker, it catches lines.
Catches lines.
Yeah.
Talk about catching lines because that.
So when you're shooting competition, if you shoot one of the lines, you get the higher score. So indoor, if I shoot the X10 line, I get the X because it's touching the line.
Oh, okay. I get it. So you want that wider because if you're touching,
right?
It's
yes.
I get it.
And with indoor too, you're not worried about wind or anything like that. And we know you're shooting 20 yards, so we're not worried about speed. So we shoot a thick, heavy arrow indoor.
Yeah, it's all about placement and getting as much impact. Makes sense.
Yep.
When I was at your house and I got you it was either the first time or the second time when I picked up the bow or dropped it off one or the other, and you were explaining this to me. I was like, yeah, I don't get it, but it makes perfect sense now. I didn't really think about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't think anybody actually thought of that.
Right.
Bigger arrow, bigger hole.
Yep.
But it's kind of common sense. So is there anything else we missed on the arrow discussion?
No, I think that's everything with the arrows.
My next thing is releases. Because
I have 2 of them with me too.
Everybody wants to talk about releases. What you do with my grandfather was always like kisser button and a release and and then everybody got me nose on the string, and then kiss the fletch. Mm-hmm. That was the new thing now, and that's I think I actually still have a kisser on my bow, just because that's what I was born and raised with and didn't want to switch. The only thing I switch to now is I do touch the nose
Right.
on the string, but besides that, I mean, what do? You fletch?
So
do you even touch your face?
So you do want a consistent anchor. Me personally, I don't run a kiss or anything like that. The only thing I do is nose on the string, and I know when I anchor, I'm anchoring in the same position every time.
Okay, so it's
repetition.
all consistent repetition.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Now, as far as anchor points, and everybody knows, so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not a fan of kisser buttons because anybody can draw a bow back and stretch your face to reach that kisser button.
Very true.
Now,
very true.
If you're looking for something like that, something new that's out is the Bomar nose button. Again, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's work, and you can't change the position of your nose. So, personally,
that's a good point.
I just know I put the string on the tip of my nose. Other people need that sensation. So this Bomar nose button, it actually has spikes on it that you can. And the thing is, with that, you can feel if you have more or less pressure because. If it's really stabbing you, you're really pushing it into your nose.
Bomar?
Yeah, Bomar nose button.
Nose button.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that up because I still have the kisser, and it's kind of like you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like it's time to go up to the next something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I want to talk about releases because I think it's like a Scott Little Goose or X Goose or something like that, and it works for me, and I understand why people like him and why people don't like him. Mine's not a spring load, so the thing I do like about it is I have to consciously flick it forward,
right?
And then I know, and the reason I like it for hunting is you really need to get that automatic point, and the automatic point for me is knowing I click it, I let go,
right? I
pull back. And then I can just take I literally do this exaggerated step of taking my finger and going like that. It's ridiculous.
Right.
I'm like, boop. And I know, and all I have to do is touch. Mm-hmm. And for me, that just kind of works.
Right.
But see, that's my point of talking to you about saying, like, my spin. I'm worried if my spin is coming from my wrist here.
Right.
Because I know everything else. I know everything else in my head is spot on.
Right.
And I've recorded it and watched it.
Yep.
So why else am I getting that spin? And I think it's got to be something in the wrist.
Could be, yeah.
I don't know if they look like thumbs. Are they the thumb style or?
This one's a thumb button. This one's a hinge.
Okay. Explain the difference.
So a thumb button actually activates with a thumb trigger. So like if I close this, I actually have to squeeze that thumb trigger to get it to go off. The hinge, there is no trigger. It actually is what it says it is. The hinge, when it pivots to a certain point, it goes off.
Ah. Okay, so thumb hinge?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, a lot of times you'll hear this referred to as a back tension.
Back tension.
Technically, every release should be back tension.
Exactly.
Even if you're shooting a finger trigger, you should release it with your back tension.
See, that's something I can't do.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
I've tried, and...
So when I was coaching kids, what I would tell them, you don't want to slap the trigger. What you want to do, and back tension is probably a pretty bad way to say it too, but what I tell people is when you're shooting...
What's a squeeze?
Not even necessarily squeeze, but what I tell people is just pull your elbow. Like if you're shooting a finger trigger, rest your finger in front of that trigger and pull your elbow through it. Don't actually move your finger. And what I would actually do with kids when I was coaching, I'm like, I can't do it. It's not right. It's not right. I would tell them, okay, draw your bow back. They draw their bow back. I'm like, okay, keep your finger behind. Don't do anything until I tell you. And I'd sneak up behind them and I'd just tap that trigger real quick. And they'd look at me like, felt a lot different, didn't it? Like, yeah, it did feel different. I was like, because you weren't expecting the shot.
And that's what I think a lot of it is that flinch. Just like when you pull a rifle trigger, you literally pull through.
Right.
You don't push.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what when you're trying to shoot a pistol and a lot of people want to squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
They want to squeeze. They're like, pep, 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 pep. And what they don't realize is every single time they can't hit the broadside of the barn because they're pulling, they're pulling.
Yep.
You actually have to pull through it. So it kind of clicks for me to make sense to pull through it.
Yep.
Pull through it. When everybody kept saying back tension, I'm out there in my backyard literally flexing my back and I'm like, this isn't working. This is stupid.
So now in saying that, when you pull your elbow through, if you could feel it, you will feel your shoulder muscle
I get
activate
it.
with
I get it.
Yeah.
But
I think telling people to pull their elbow through it is a more effective way of conveying
100%. 100%. Because I kinesiology working out. It's got my mind. Back tension means row. You're
Right.
squeezing
Right.
your rhomboids. You know what I mean? You work on the traps. It's all pulled together, and it's a
Yep.
tension thing.
Yep.
So when they say, "Oh, you got to squeeze the back," I don't think motion. I think of flexing. I don't think motion of pulling the elbow.
Right.
So I literally squeeze my back, and my elbow doesn't move.
And when you do that, look where your hands are going.
Exactly, it's going back.
Yep.
This is going back. So every time I would do that on the range or out back,
Right.
exactly like you said, look where your hand's going. It's going to the left.
Yep.
It's going to the left. I blew up 2 arrows trying to do this back tension stuff at 20 yards, and I'm like, I'm done.
Right.
Done. Going back to the finger flick.
Yep.
So you saying that, and again, these archery guys you shoot with are like, this take his bow. He doesn't deserve it. But you know what I mean? It makes sense because a lot of us other guys who were kind of like, basically just novice, like no idea amateurs,
Yeah.
we don't know. We're a lot of guys still got that 90s release that's black's got a spring in. They're like, don't get me wrong, you're still killing deer,
Yep.
but the consistency piece, when I shot my that was a little 5-point I shot 2 years ago, and it was like I don't even remember. It was like one of the last days, and I was like, well, I can get this little 5-point, have some meat, and be done, or I can hope for a
Right.
Hail Mary during rifle season. So I was like, I'm gonna take him, and it was a 45-yard shot. The arrow flew terribly. I gutted it, hit it in the stomach. I heard the pop balloon. It took me forever to find him. It was a nightmare. So I was
Right.
like, I told myself after that, I was like, I need to improve this because A, I don't want the animal to suffer.
Yep.
B, I don't want to be walking around the woods for hours trying to find it. And
Yeah.
C, why wouldn't you?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, I think a lot of other people out there probably had this same thought, or they think they need to step their game up. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So which one do you hunt with?
So this here's my hunting release, and
That's the thumb.
I actually have no problem hunting with a back tension release. The reason I prefer this release is I like a release that I can clip on my D loop and just leave it hang there.
And that's another big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of anything on my wrist, and probably because of Target, but I'm used to handheld releases. But the nice thing about this, like I said, I can clip it on my D loop. It's hanging there. I have something come in. I grab my bow. My release is already hanging on it. It's ready to go.
See, and that's an annoying thing when I'm sitting in the woods in the stand and I start hearing the first thing I do is,
Yep.
I got it on, click it. Okay, I'm ready.
Right.
And already I've lost 5 seconds, which sounds like nothing, but that's an eternity.
Exactly. Yep.
You know what I mean? And by that time, I've already moved enough.
Yep.
Or you can't see that awesome 10-point right in front of you and decide, okay, I'm going to lock up now and put my release on.
Correct, yep.
Because that little bit of movement is enough. Don't get me wrong, that movement to grab that release is enough, but you can look at him while you're grabbing the release.
Right.
You can't sit there and get your finger and that little tiny knock to get on the right spot
Right.
on the bow and be consistent, especially if it's a string on a D loop and you're like, I can't get it on here, but if that's already hanging,
Yes. Yep.
you can see with your priffs, I can grab this right here.
Yep.
And keep your eye on that deer, and when he looks away, grab.
Right.
Right?
And what I like about this release, it's a good size. So even with gloves on, it feels good in my hand. That knob there, and people comment on this knob all the time. There's a company called UltraView. They do a lot of 3D printed stuff. They have 4 or 5 different knobs out. And I thought they call this one the Rock.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that looks super funky, but it's nice and big. And my thumb's right there.
Yeah.
I love that on my hunting release.
I would want that same. I would want it big,
I have a drawer full of their knobs, and that's the one I keep going back to for my hunting release.
and that even just
See, in that release,
this
in that release too, that comes with a stock skinny peg, and I can't shoot skinny pegs on my hinge releases, so I put that bigger barrel in there.
So run me through a hinge release, because I'm assuming when you say hinge, it's a turn of the wrist.
No, you're still pulling. So when I'm hooked up, and I should have brought a string so I could show you, but so say I'm on my D loop there. If I pull my elbow through, you'll see how that's pulling my hand, and it actually activates that hook. And there's a moon in there that the hook slides over. So when it hits that point, you'll hear a click right there.
And
that lets me know it's ready to go, and then it'll flip over the edge of the moon.
That makes sense.
Now, you will see guys that shoot this release by flipping the wrist. It works for them, but it's not the correct way.
It's
to
not
shoot
the way you're supposed to
Yeah.
do it. Now with this thumb release, and this is another thing that was kind of hard for me to, I don't want to say grasp, but sort of the use to having, the trigger, you're right here, and you kind of
Right.
get used to feeling that open palm flat, because I do this.
Yep.
Open forearm, or open forearm, front hand, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Very, very limp. And then this is usually kind of back like this or like this. To turn upside down, this is how you're going, right?
Correct. Yeah. Hand against face, just like this.
That would just feel, I guess it would get time to get used to.
You have to get used to it. Yep.
But it would feel weird. So placement, you just know this goes the same spot versus like not having a kiss. And
my first 2 knuckles go on my jaw. That's
On the jaw.
on my jawbone. That's where I anchor.
I like it.
Yep.
And that's a rave.
Yep. The true ball rave.
Gonna have to switch it up. I'm gonna have to switch it up.
That's a great release, and it's a reasonably priced release too, which is nice because some of these handheld releases can get pretty expensive. I mean, like this release is like a $250 or $300 release. This here,
I thought mine was $80 and was expensive.
These are right around 120, 130, I think it is. They're a reasonably priced release.
Yeah, rave. I'm gonna switch. I'm getting one. I'm buying it today.
Yeah, you like it.
Rave. Sweet. Is there anything else we didn't cover?
As far as releases, I think that covers everything.
Releases. Is there anything else we should go over? I mean, I feel like we've hit the bow. We've hit releases. We've hit arrows. We've talked about sights. We've talked about rests. What are we missing? What should people know that are daily people?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think we covered a lot of stuff.
We did cover a lot of stuff. We might have to do another one of these because I'm sure I'll be like, as soon as you leave, I'll be like, should have talked about that. I do have another question. Yeah. Whisker biscuits.
Hate them.
Yeah, see, I do too. But then I see like, what's his name? Pigman. He has that one YouTube video.
I know.
People say whisker biscuit, and he's shooting 100 yards. Whisker biscuit, and he's sitting like pie pan like all day at like 100 yards with a whisker biscuit.
And I'm not saying you can't shoot with a whisker biscuit, but your veins are dragging on those whiskers as it comes out of it.
Right, that's what I say. I mean, same thing.
I mean, that's common.
It's gonna affect it.
Yeah. So
especially if they get crinkled in the slightest.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's turning, and that, it's gonna make a spin.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm not a fan of them. I tell people if you want to shoot a full capture like that, get the Octane Hostage. It has 3 brushes instead of full bristles.
I gotta look into that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got rid of the whisker biscuit a while ago because it just didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And I kept having that spin, and I was blaming it. So then I went to the QAD drop away. That was a big one. Now,
I really do recommend a drop away. And the one I shoot, so when I was talking before about I shoot the same equipment across all my bows, the one thing I do shoot different is because I shoot the Shrewd Remedy blade rest of my target bows.
Right.
Obviously, I don't want to shoot a blade for hunting. I shoot the Hamsky drop away for hunting.
Hamsky drop away for hunting.
I absolutely love that. That's a great drop away release.
I gotta write that down. Hamsky?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hamsky drop away. And you had the QAD, right? So, like, what made you switch away from that?
I just got to looking at it, wanted to try it, and I absolutely loved it. I still have a QAD laying in the drawer. My son still shoots a QAD.
Yeah, I saw that you had the American flag QAD, which was awesome. I actually had the camo one initially, but I didn't like it, so I was like, I got to switch away from this because it didn't match. Didn't match my stuff. I'm all matchy match guy. Like it's got to all be the same. So then I went to all black bow. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was just.
So the difference between the Hamsky and the QAD is the QAD is a cable-driven rest. That's it. There's nothing you can change about that.
Right.
The Hamsky, you can run it as a blade rest, a cable-driven, a limb-driven, top limb, bottom limb. You can run it however you want.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It works, but the drop away for me does it's way better than dealing with whisker biscuit for sure.
Yep.
And I get why people want the whisker biscuit. It feels like it stays. It doesn't deviate, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe if you're stalk hunting, but not that many people are stalk hunting.
You know, it's like a Toby though. My drop away, I can turn my bow upside down. It's not the arrow's not falling out.
Right. It's staying.
It's you have to go with the right drop away is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I'd agree 100%. And even with the QAD, it's got like a little post on top, so it's not falling out. And
Right.
I've kind of gotten habitual to the point where if I'm walking, I put my finger over top because there is some plastic in there, and I don't want it to
Yep.
jumping around. So I'll if I'm walking, I'll put my finger over top while I'm walking just to keep the arrow stuck down.
You know, a friend of mine did a YouTube video recently. He actually takes, for his QADs, he puts shrink tube over the plastic parts.
That makes sense.
And it works well. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Covered dropaways. There was something I did just want to ask you, and I just forgot about it. What was it? QADs, dropaways, stalk hunting. Oh, how did I lose that so quick?
Hey, speaking of hunting, don't let me forget when we get on that topic, I got some cool stuff for you.
Talk.
Some information.
Let's get into hunting.
Well, hey, before I forget, I figured you're probably, an extra large?
Yep. Nailed it.
There you go.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
I love when guys give me swag. Wicked Threads. Custom strings. Is that your cell?
Yep, that's the cell number. The website and everything is on there.
Dude. That logo. Can you see that logo? There. Now you can see that logo.
Got my son to
That
thank
is
for
so
that.
cool. That's so cool. That's a good logo.
Yep.
And it makes perfect sense. It all kind of comes together. Thank you.
We're just trying to come up with a slogan now. So tell you what, anybody watching this, they can come up with a slogan. Maybe I'll throw a free set of strings their way.
Has a slogan? Yeah.
We're just trying to think of something cool. Like all these other companies have cool slogans, and I'm sitting there thinking like Wicked Good. I'm like, no, that just sucks.
Too much wicked. Yeah.
So we need something that goes with the company name, but sounds cool.
So like, I call this Steve's the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I came up with reality of it is because I always say that's the reality of it. Like
Right.
when I'm talking, I'm
Yep.
like, dude, that's just the reality of it. Like,
Yeah.
calm down. It's the reality of it. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And it just made sense, but you'll
Yep.
figure something out. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're working on it.
just, as it comes up, just let it be natural.
Yep. Yeah.
I appreciate the swag. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
yeah.
So let's segue into hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we kind of covered everything with the goods. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the different hunting setup as we segue into hunting versus your different comp shoots, 3D shoots, outdoor shoots. I mean, what are you looking for? Is it something more stable? Is it something more?
So my hunting setup is actually very similar to my competition setup. I still so the difference is I shoot a shorter axle to axle. I personally like a 30-inch, 31-inch axle to axle bow for hunting.
Okay.
Other than that, I still run a front and back bar, just shorter.
Okay.
So for my target setups, like for two of my target setups, I run a 30-inch front bar. For another one, I run a 33-inch front bar. And when I first started, the guys told me, well, you just pick a bar that's long enough to lean on. That's how you pick your bar length.
I get it.
And then for the back, I run a 12, where with hunting, I run, I think it's an 8 and a 10 or 6 and 8. I forget what it is offhand.
Yeah, see, I don't even remember what mine is, but I think it might be 32, but it's just like a little bit bigger, makes you feel a little more stable.
Yep.
Versus, and
Yeah.
what we say steady is steady.
Heaviest steady.
Heaviest steady. There you
Yep.
go. So like I always kind of feel the same way too. If I went too light and too small axle to axle,
Yeah.
it's just gonna be more shaky.
Right.
And especially when that big buck comes in, you got to try to calm your nerves.
Yep.
So you're sitting there trying to. I hold my breath, and I actually have like anxious hands that it is. And I used to be a bartender, so when I was making drinks and I'd get nervous.
Right.
So a technique that I just started doing would be like as I'd like pass out drinks. A martini, especially that little V glass filled to the top, I'd be like spilling it all over the place.
Yep.
So I just like hold my breath and be like, you know what I mean? But I don't know why I went down that segue, but holding your breath was kind of the thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but like I said, other than that, everything's the same. I still shoot a dovetail sight on my hunting bow.
Okay.
I have hunted with a lens before too, a 2 or 4x lens.
See, I always kind of wanted to do. What about the adjustment piece though? If it's like lens. When I say when you mean lens, you mean like the dot and it's adjustable, like single dot or.
No. I'm saying like so. I run a magnified lens in my target scopes.
Oh, okay. So that's what you actually mean.
Yep.
Actually, a magnified lens.
Yep.
That sounds pretty cool.
I've hunted with a 2x and a 4x before. I don't have one currently in my setup, but I have hunted with them before.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So my target setups, I shoot a 6x lens.
So you were saying you had something about to say with a hunting story that you wanted to tell me.
Well, we were talking about setups and stuff. Something
Right.
new. I'm getting into saddle hunting.
Saddle hunting?
Saddle hunting.
Like from horse saddle hunting?
Not
Okay.
horse saddle. So they're tree saddles.
Okay.
Arborists have been using them for years. They're starting to become more popular in hunting. So instead of sitting in a tree stand, I actually sit in a saddle that's hanging off the tree.
Nope,
Yep.
not me.
I'm telling you,
I'm afraid of heights.
I am too. I am
Really?
too. Yeah. Well, so I used to be really afraid of heights. What got me over it is I used to be a volunteer firefighter, and when I went through training, we had to climb up a 35-foot ladder and lock in, lean back so they could read our code. That kind of got me over it a little bit. But still, I fell out of a tree stand in 2012. So sometimes up there, I'm still, but I'm starting to get better with it again. But I've been looking into the saddles for 2 years now. I'm a big guy. So I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So started talking to some guys, get more like, dude, this will work for you. We have a saddle big enough for you, blah, blah. Actually, last Sunday, I went to a saddle event with a bunch of us, 15 of us, met up at Tuscarora State Park to try some different stuff out.
Yeah.
I got a saddle. I'm going to be saddle hunting this year. I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of advantages to it.
I could see it. Yeah, I could definitely see it, but I would, yeah. I'm just finally now like kind of comfortable in tree stands, and I'm trying to graduate to climbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm still like, I got like a good, I can't remember what it is, summit or something.
Yeah.
Climber, and I'm like, all right, maybe next year.
So my saddle hunting platform, I have two of them. And one of my saddle hunting, my primary one actually is about that wide by about that deep. I can stand on it and turn. That's about all the room I have.
That's nuts.
But
you're still sitting on something though, right?
Just a saddle.
Yeah.
I might actually have a picture of it in here. But yeah, you just have a saddle that you wear around you, and that's what hooks to the tree.
Yeah.
But I'm actually it's super comfortable.
Really?
It's really comfortable. Yeah. I'm liking it a lot.
I'm gonna have to look into this.
So that's actually, you can't really see the size, but that's my platform there that I use primarily. So the platform is basically there just because you need somewhere to lean. You're really only using the edge of that platform the entire time because you need something to lean back on.
It looks like it works though. And then what? So you go up, you climb, and then that anchor is just anchored into the tree?
That's hung just like a regular tree stand would be.
Yeah.
Let me see. I know I got.
But that rope that's going around you, that's just going around the tree, though, right? Like it's just anchored on the tree.
Yeah, it's going to be the same as using a safety harness,
right?
Except you're in a saddle, not so. Yeah, actually, my son took a picture of me. There I am in my saddle in the backyard.
You're gonna have to send this to me so I have it.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense though, and it's exactly what I do for a living, sell lineman goods. So like, I know exactly.
So the biggest advantage to it is when you're in a tree stand, you cannot shoot behind you. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So the difference with a saddle, so normally you do your setup where the deer's going to come in front of you. You got the tree behind you.
Uh-huh.
This, you're going to set up the same way where the deer's going to come in front of you, but you're behind the tree. So you got built-in cover right there. And if the deer would come behind you in a saddle, you can turn and shoot behind you.
Well, see, what I do is I go for two-seaters,
and
I'll put it on a tree that's not super wide.
Right.
And now I actually set up so the deer come behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I can just sit there and hear and be like,
okay.
And then I can knock and get everything ready.
Yeah.
And as they're coming up, I'm already standing up because I'll sit there. So then if they're coming in, they won't see me stand.
Right.
And then so I can actually get like everything set and in my stance.
Yep.
And all I have to do is wait for them to come a little bit around, and I pull back and it's all over.
So you already understand one of the benefits of it.
Yeah, and that's how I do it. So like instead of facing, because if you're facing, there's too many opportunities for them to see you coming in, or the light hits you wrong, or like you're in the stand and all of a sudden the sun's the wrong way, and it's like glaring on you, and you're like, wow, I stick out like a sore thumb. They can definitely see me. So yeah, I changed that routine up a little bit to be like, all right, face away. Look behind, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Some people are probably sitting there being like, you're an idiot. I disagree, but screw you. It works for me, but yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing I'm looking forward to this fall is use my saddle set up.
Where are you hunting at?
So primarily, my grandmother's a farm down in Dover.
Okay.
That's where I hunt 95% of the time. So the reason I have two platforms is I'm actually going to leave the bigger one preset on her farm with some sticks.
Makes sense.
Now I have some steps, strap-on steps, and the smaller platform. If I decide to go to game lands, I'll take them. And that's the beautiful thing with the saddle is I'm not lugging this giant stand around. The saddle I wear on me, and the stand is, like I said, 11 by 13.
You're set.
Yeah, it's such a light setup.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. I mean, and a lot of like the state game land hunting that I do, I leave the stand there. I'm that guy.
Yep.
But I'm up in the middle of nowhere, so
Right.
it's like
I have.
if you're really following the whole way in here to find my stand,
Yeah.
you can take it.
Yep. I've had several spots on game lands where I've left stands out there.
Yeah.
I had one spot. You're supposed to take them down at the end of the season. I had one spot where I left one for 2 years, and it was fine because I go back where nobody else is.
Yeah, and I do the same, but I've had stands there since so. And I've also had some taken down,
Right.
and I'm like, yeah, I know you're gonna find me, so I'm not gonna.
Yep.
The tree stand didn't cost as much as the fine's gonna be, so you can have it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's a risk I'll take
Right.
because I know how much of a pain in the butt it is to rig that thing all the way up to the top of the mountain, especially since I do double cedars in the style that I hunt and try to be around the backside of this tree.
Yep.
That's the way it's going to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So give us like a good archery hunting story before we wrap this up. I need to hear something.
So here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. When it comes to hunting, and she makes fun of me all the time. I'm going to flat out tell you, I have not shot a deer in 13 years.
Over. Over.
So there's several reasons for it. One, 2012, I fell out of a tree stand. That kind of ruined me for a year or two.
That'll kill it.
And then when my son started hunting for 3 years, I had opportunities, but I didn't want to shoot anything without him shooting something first. So those 3 years, I
Kind
didn't
of
shoot
makes
anything
sense.
there.
Yeah.
So over the 13 years, there have been reasons. There were some years where I just flat out didn't hunt because I had things going on.
Yeah.
I've reached a point in my life, I will never go a year without hunting again.
Yeah.
So now this past year, I got some shots at 2 deer. Unfortunately, one I shot over its back. Stupid, my mistake. I'm glad it was a clean miss. Other one, unfortunately, I shot a buck, never found him. I tracked blood for 200 yards and it just stopped. And I looked all over and could not find him anywhere. Where the shot was, I'm fairly certain he lived, and I'm thankful for that because I don't want him just laying somewhere.
Right.
But it is what it is. And then my grandma's neighbor, we were talking to one day. He's like, he asked me what day I shot it to him. He's like, oh, yeah, I ran around my stand after you shot it. It's a nice buck. I was like, hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I've had, in the short time I've been hunting, I think 5 deer I'm at, 3 of those with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time, like, the archery story is way better than the rifle story.
Well, I do have a story. So the very first deer I ever shot with a bow, I was hung up in this land. I got permission to hunt this property, and I'm sitting there, and I think I got the perfect setup. I'm just using Tink scent bombs at the time. I had them out all around me, the half moon and all that.
Yep.
And I see a deer coming. She's like 60, 70, maybe 80 yards away, and she starts veering away, and then all of a sudden makes a V-line back towards me. I'm like, what was that about? I look over. Here, there's some guy that never even saw me, dropped his pants, shitting by a tree over here. She caught with it and started heading back towards me. Came up 10 yards from my stand, double lunged her, and she went 20 yards and dropped.
Dude, that's a story. That's a story.
Yep.
Guy taking a poop. Boom.
Yep.
Ah.
He pushed her my way because he had to take a shit in the woods.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. I don't have a good story that good. Could you actually see the guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could see him. That's how I realized what happened. I'm sure after he heard the shot and heard jumping around, he probably jumped up pretty quick.
My first was sitting there and it had a bleep call, and I saw what I thought might have been a 4 or 6,
Mm-hmm.
and if it was a 6, I was going to take it. If it was a 4, I was letting it go.
Yeah.
Obviously, the law was changed by that time, and it went by, and I was like, oh, okay, good. And what was behind it was I thought it was a doe,
Mm-hmm.
and she came walking in and was underneath a pine tree and looking like this, like head down style, and I'm sitting actually on the ground in full, leaf suit, pull back and let her rip, and I walk up to it, and it was a spike, and I was so mad. I actually did the right thing and turned it in, which,
Yep. The first year, so I guess I can admit this now. The first year they had this law in PA, I shot what I thought was a doe. And I walked up on it, and it had buttons. I mean, not even above the fur. And I'm sitting there, and I'm freaking out, and I grab a rock, and I start beating these things. My buddy walks over, and is like, dude, they're not an inch long. You're okay.
Yeah. So that's what I reported mine in, and the game warden will actually measure them.
Yep.
And he's like, dude, you're so close, but he's like, I can't let you take this.
Right.
And I was so mad too, because I was like flipping out. I'm like, they're gonna make me claim this as a buck. I'm gonna lose my buck tag for the year because that was the year I shot that.
Yeah.
I was furious. So I was like, dude, if I lose my buck tag, I'm gonna be mad as all get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they just literally wrote me a tag on the spot and said, "Here, this is your tag," and I was like, "All right, we're
Right.
good."
Yeah.
And they took the deer. You know, I still had all the excitement. You know, they gave it away to like a family in need,
Right,
so it's
yeah.
not like it was wasted or anything like that. You know, so I was happy about that. But it was awful experience too because my had a bad arrow flight. I spined it, crippled the deer. I was like, all right, got it, and I turned around, waited for it to die. 5 minutes goes by, I turn around, the deer's just sitting there looking around, and I felt terrible.
Yep.
I had to go up and like, that's a whole nother story. I won't tell that. I'll get a lot of hate for that, but it was a terrible experience in the long run of it. And that was kind of what made me be like, dude.
Yep.
All right, whatever's going on with my bow, then that made me buy a new bow. Then I got a new bow. That was still jacked up. So that's why I'm saying we got to take a look at my form and all that jazz because I'm doing something wrong that's giving me that twist flight. And what people got to understand is when you put on those broadheads, that if you have a tick or a tock or something that's causing an issue, it gets amplified and exaggerated extremely when you put those broadheads on there. So, I'm shooting like G5s, I think, and that's not even that big of a spread compared to like those old school style ones. And I'll get some crazy spin going. But at field tips, I'm pinging bullseyes all day, and I'm like, I'm boss, like I'm doing this great. And all of a sudden, I put on a broadhead, and I'm like, I can't keep happening.
Right.
I don't want the deer to suffer. I don't want to have to, go at it again. And out of all 3 deer I've killed, all of them been bad kills. I've gotten the deer. You know what I mean? I haven't missed.
Yep.
But the deer suffered every time, and I'm not okay with that.
Right,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I want to drop it. I want to double lung. I want a heart.
That's why we need to keep improving. Yep.
Exactly. And you got to keep improving. You got to practice. You got to keep going. And, obviously, that one was blown away. I right through the heart, explode, dead. That thing was dead in seconds.
Right.
And I want the same thing with the bow.
Right.
People got to understand that. It's, for the liberal people out there, you don't want the animal to suffer. It's not like we get off to that kind of thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know why I went on that little rant there, but the point is you got to look at my form.
Yeah.
Something's off. Something I'm not doing right. And maybe I need to just start with a new release, and that thumb release might be the thing. And you explaining the back tension to me and everybody else that's reading this or watching, should say, kind of might get that because, again, I was out there literally doing that back tension thing. And like you said, look what the left hand's doing. It's going to the right. It's going to the left. It's going to the left.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is stupid. What are they saying? What are they saying? But you're just saying you're 100% right. And this kind of thing with turkey calling. And the last episode was on turkey calling. People try to tell you one thing that doesn't click to you.
Right.
But if somebody else gives you another opinion on how it clicks.
Yeah.
And that elbow thing, as simple as that was, and I don't know how I couldn't figure that out because I was so focused on back tension.
Right.
Because it's called back tension. I couldn't get past it.
Right.
With turkey calling, you're supposed to say a word, and people would say like, well, say this, or say cluck, or say putt, or say tut, or this, or that, or that. And I'm like, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what they say.
Right.
It all comes to the same thing. It just has to make sense to you.
Correct.
So when you come up with that word and you're trying to learn a mouth call, and you get that word, boom, it'll click.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Makes sense?
Absolutely.
It's the same thing with archery and the turkey calling thing. You just got to find what works for you.
Right.
And makes it complete.
Right.
But just the conversations I've had with you, and this is our third conversation about this, I'm a peon, dude. You think you don't know nothing, and, a sham artist, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, like, you're blowing my mind,
Like I said, I'm still learning every day. There's guys like George Riles puts out some great videos, does some great seminars. Love watching him. He's a wealth of knowledge.
George Riles, I got to write that down.
Yeah, he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to bows.
Is there anything else we got before we wrap this thing up, man?
I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of anything, it's not like you live far.
Yeah,
we can do this again for sure. I appreciate you taking the time coming on here.
Absolutely.
And doing my bow, Wicked Threads. Start this thing up. So how do people get a hold of you, man?
Like I said, you can email me at wickedthreadscs@gmail.com. Phone number, you can give me a call or text at 717-515-7131. We do have a website. It's on our cards. Just unfortunately, you can't buy anything off the website currently because we're still working on it. I've actually been speaking to several web designers to help me make it a little more professional site, work on that store a little bit. But yeah, like I said, email, text, call, any way you want to get a hold of me. I do strings. I work on bows at the house, whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. And best thing more than anything, you're a local guy.
Yep.
And for us small town people that like to support that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
I have many guys that have come in there and was like, holy shit, you have this in your house? Like,
yeah, that's
like,
what I said. And now that it's in the bigger room.
When I used to work at the shop, I joke with them, tell them, like, dude, I have a better setup than we have at the shop here.
I believe it. I believe it. I believe
and
it.
my new press and draw board, dude, top-notch stuff. I love it. So glad I got it. Archery tooling equipment. I love this stuff.
I'm going to have to get some pictures of that so I can throw this in here so people know what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I want to stop by and see it.
Yep.
Another thing, I don't know if you're mass making those hats, but I want one of those hats. I'll buy the hat because I love that logo.
The story behind the hat, I had somebody make one as a prototype. This didn't come out the way I wanted. I actually wanted the logo offset on the one side. And she just sent me this one. I haven't heard back from her since. So I have the one prototype. I do plan on getting more hats made. I just got to figure out who I want to go with, and it's got to be the right price. Like I said, small business just starting out. I had a web design company yesterday. They wanted $22,000 to build my website. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Dude, check out Wix. I do my own website.
That's where I built my current website, but I don't have some of the options I need in the store. So I actually have to have a web developer do it.
I get it.
So I'm working with another local company. Hopefully, we can get it done at a reasonable price.
I'll have to talk to John at Whitetails Down and see where he gets his hats done.
Okay, yeah, definitely let me know.
He makes some pretty nice hats.
I definitely want some more because I have guys asking for them, and this is the only one I have right now.
Yeah, it's a sick logo. I would love to have.
I absolutely love that people love this logo. Like it. I told my son the other day.
That's half of it. That's half of it.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Hertzog. Yep.
Hertzog. Wow. Craig, I appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely.
Guys, look up Craig. Good stuff.
You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Local guy. Check him out. Thanks for the time, guys. Appreciate you.